What is going on, guys? Welcome to Victims and Villains. If you guys are new to this channel, we discuss mental health through pop culture while introducing you to a few cool titles along the way. My name is Captain Nostalgia, and on this episode, we're going to be talking about the independent film Ghosts of Monday. This movie chronicles the tale of a documentary film crew that is essentially making a television pilot that is in the vein of ghost hunters and, well, as the vein would say, they happen to hunt a couple of ghosts. I'm gonna say, I feel like there's nothing inherently wrong with the Ghosts of Monday. It's just literally, okay across the board. The acting, there's nothing remarkable about it. There are no standout performances, nothing that really wowed me. It's just kind of okay. It's not good, it's not bad, it's passable, it works for what this movie's going for. The pacing in this movie is probably the biggest downfall of this movie. What I feel like works really well for this movie is that it takes elements from other movies that are successful at using those elements to make an effective story really draw its audience to the edge of their seat. This movie spends probably about 2/3 of its time being a drama that just happens to have a few horror elements in it. It's almost as if the writers were kind of setting out to make a ghost story movie, and then they got too involved with the drama of the characters, and then somewhere along the way, throughout the many drafts of this film, I imagine they were like, oh yeah, we need to splice some ghost stuff in this movie. And because of that, the third act feels like literally they went from being a drama and they just turned on a switch and walked into the horror room. This third act throws so many elements of horror out there. It's creature feature, it's slasher, it's cult, it's folk horror, it's supernatural. It's all of these elements that are condensed into the final 20 minutes of this movie. And let me just tell you that it is exhausting. A horror fan, I feel like I really enjoyed the horror elements of this movie, but as the film critic in me is kind of it doesn't work as a movie. They should have taken those elements and kind of splurged them a little bit, or at least teased them a little bit more throughout the course of the movie than they did. And then I wouldn't feel like by the time you actually got to the horror elements, the most effective portions of this, you would be like, oh God, what is this mess? Despite all my criticisms of how the third act is put together and the awkward pacing therein of the full movie, I think this third act right here not only presents some of the coolest gags in the movie by far, but also at the same time it really kept you guessing, and I really liked that. I would have just liked it, throughout the remainder of the movie. I also feel like this movie is a little bit too straightforward for the first 2/3 of the movie, and then it's like someone took acid or shrooms and were like, what if we did this in the third act? What if we did this in the third act? What if we did this in the third act? It's like the third act of this movie feels like that Key and Peele sketch where the Warner Brothers hires a guy to kind of shape the Gremlins 2. If you haven't seen it, I'll be sure to post it at the end of this video, but that's what this movie's third act feels like. Coming back to the so-so nature of this movie, I think the lighting in this movie is fine. The sound in this movie is fine. A lot of the technical aspects of this movie are just fine. There's never really one moment in particular where I'm like, man, that shot was lit really well. Maybe the monster reveal, that close up was kind of cool with the costuming, but other than that, outside of technical, there's nothing really remarkable about this movie. I feel like this movie could have been so much better than what it had. It had so much potential, and it really just kind of squanders itself. It almost feels like it's becoming it's a parody of the very thing it's trying to pay homage to. You know those Discovery shows where it's like ghost hunters, ancient aliens, that kind of stuff? That's what this movie feels like. It feels like a parody that just happens to be acted okay. I don't really have anything else to say about this movie. It's really straightforward. The last act is crazy. Let's go ahead and run this through the Rorschach rating scale. I'm gonna go ahead and give this one a 2 out of 5. Like I said, this movie's it's okay. It's got its moments. It's on Blu-ray, it's on DVD, and it's on digital now from Cleopatra Entertainment. I'll provide a link in the show notes below, but let's talk about mental health. If you guys are new to our content, Mental Health Moment is where we'll take a theme of mental health out of the movie which we're reviewing. We'll talk about it for a few moments in the hopes to deconstruct the stigma surrounding mental health. One of the main protagonists in this movie actually loses her parents at a very young age, and the film explores the aftermath or the fallout of losing someone so close to you at a young age. There are other elements in this that explore how she's also currently experiencing grief as we're meeting her in this moment in time, not just necessarily her parents. I don't want to necessarily jump into that, but because I feel like it tingles into spoiler territory, but let's just kind of do a character profile real quick. I think eventually what ends up happening is if a person has too much on their plate, eventually that plate is bound to break. Kind of a weird comparison, but the iconic image of Bane breaking Batman's back. Here you have a character that literally has the entire world on his shoulders, or at least the way that he perceives it. And you have a character that comes along that's bigger, and he can quite literally be a representation of grief, loss, depression, suicide, self-harm, etc., alcoholism, debt, you name it, and he breaks you. And I think the point of the main protagonist that we're addressing here, the point we meet her, you're literally on the verge of being broken. And for anyone that's watching this right now that feels like you're on the edge of breaking, whether it is because of just life just feeling too heavy for you, depression or school or anxiety or grief, loss, whatever the circumstances that are bringing you to the edge, please understand what the word hope means. Hold on, pain ends. I know it sounds really super cliche to hear, but I promise you that the pain of your current season, if you deal with it adequately and healthily, that you'll see not only the aftermath and the benefits of it in the coming weeks and seasons, but also in the relationships around you. One of the things that our main character here ends up actually experiencing because of the loss is there's also a husband that she has pushed out in the process. And sometimes the people that actually want to help us, our depression, our circumstances, whatever, give us this filter that make us think that they want the worst for us. And I just want to encourage anyone that's currently experiencing this to please seek help. We have resources in the library, in the mental health resource library. The link is in the description below, because there are people that genuinely care about you and that want to see you bring joy back into the world, want to see you smile, want to hear your laugh, and want you to stay with us. And for any of you that came across this, I don't even know you, and I want that for you. So please stay with us. It's never too late. Mental health resource links are in the descriptions below. And it's also never too late to pick up your copy of The Ghosts of Monday right now from Cleopatra Entertainment. Again, the links are going to be in the show notes below. Down there below, you can also find links to all of our social media, all of our podcasts, Patreon, and more. You guys have a good night.